It's time maybe today.
Okay, the meeting is now live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Emily Scott of the West Hartford Conservation and Environment Commission. We are going to do a lightning round Conservation and Environment Commission meeting and then pivot directly to a Clean Energy Commission meeting. So let's see. First, attendance. This is me, Emily Scott. I see also commissioners present: Daly, Fishman, Sexton, and Hughes. Is there anybody that I have forgotten and failed to note so we can accurately reflect the attendance here? All right. Hearing no corrections, we can move on. And then, of course, we have a variety of other participants, joining on the clean energy side and as members of the public. Okay, so we normally open so we'll pivot directly to number 2. We normally open our agenda with an opportunity for public comment. So folks joining us can say what they need to say and then depart if they need to. So we will open it to public comment now, if there's anybody who'd like to share anything.
So this is Catherine Davini, energy specialist for the town of West Hartford, but I will adopt the role of public comment for Chris Feely, who's not here this evening. She just wanted to ask if there was any follow-up to the draft recommendations. Last month, I think we were trying to find out whether those draft recommendations had made their way back to the town manager and or the town council, the draft recommendations on electric lawn equipment from this commission. So is there any update on that?
Yes, so I understand, and thank you, Catherine, for doing the work that you've done, flagging the issue, within the halls there at Town Hall. So I understand that at present, the town manager and town council don't feel the need to adopt a resolution because the concepts covered by our little one pager there with recommendations are embedded within or fairly covered by some of the climate related resolutions that have already been passed, but that we are encouraged to go forth and conduct education programs as we set out in those recommendations. So just to close the loop, I think our understanding is similar to what we had guessed, that we are, or what we had kind of come to understand over the last few months, which is that there's no particular other action envisioned by the town council or town manager, but we are free to do our thing from an education perspective. I don't know, Catherine or others, if you have any additional comments there.
No, just to say that the town manager is very supportive of providing education on the benefits and options available for electric lawn equipment to residents so that they can make their own choices. He did share with me himself that he's about to purchase an electric leaf blower, so that's good news as well. And then I think the other comment he made, because I think it was referenced in the recommendations, that the working group could consist of, if this group decides to form a working group around this issue, you're free to do that and form it by yourselves or with others as well. And also, both he and I wanted to mention also to this commission about maybe thinking about how an educational campaign around electric lawn equipment might also fit into some broader messaging or broader strategies that your commission might want to undertake.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like the kind of sustainable landscaping umbrella more broadly that we can discuss further in the more substantive portion of the agendas. Kim, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Catherine said and say, and for anyone who's not familiar with this project, this effort, there are lots of towns in Connecticut and across the country, and in fact, California, and I haven't checked recently to see what the status is, but the whole state of California has enacted a plan to ban gas-powered lawn equipment, and there are all sorts of details that you might want to be aware of, but this is this is something that's being discussed. And so then I just second what Catherine said about this maybe being a good topic for people to discuss and take further, especially the educational efforts.
Thank you.
And one last comment just before we move on. The fact that the town manager was kind of not going to put forward a resolution at this stage doesn't mean there can't be one in the future, but for what the recommendations wanted to do, he didn't feel there was a resolution necessary, because a lot of that, we have the climate crisis resolution already in place. And so a lot of that can be ties right into that particular resolution. So he didn't just see a need for another one on this particular topic.
Yeah, so I think, from my perspective, it like closes the loop on this subtopic that we've, been discussing for some time, and then opens the door on, okay, what happens next? What, if any, educational programming do we want to put together, especially now that we're in better contact with the clean energy folks? What sort of sustainable landscaping are we saying on that point later, as we want to do? But I think this, at least closes the loop on that specific topic of the town reaction, and allows us to move forward with our other plans. Any other comments on that? Okay. Hearing/seeing none. Let's move on to approve the minutes from October 3rd. Any comments, discussion, corrections there? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from October 3rd?
Me?
Pardon?
It's Sean. Can you hear me?
Yes. I should disclose that my connection isn't great, so your videos are coming in and out to conserve bandwidth. So I'm not going to pick up on necessarily like hand waving or other visuals, like a court reporter, right? I'll need a verbal answer with like real words, because otherwise I'm not going to understand what's going on. Anyway,
do we have a quorum?
Sean Daly, yes, we do
Emily,
have a
he's
quorum.
asking.
We do, because it's Scott, Fishman, Hughes, Sexton, and Daly out of 7. So we have 5 out of 7, so we do have a quorum. Excellent.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the October meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Emily.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Sean, because you weren't here. Okay, super. Thank you. All right, well then I will move to adjourn the Conservation and Environment Commission meeting at 7:18. Land speed record. Do I have a second there?
Second.
Okay, thank you. And now I pass the talking stick to Bernie.
Thank you very much, Emily, and welcome, Conservation Commission. You've hosted us twice before, so I'm pleased to host you to this meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have any snacks or anything to offer you, so if you want to turn off your camera and eat a Ritz cracker, that's fine and dandy. So I to go through some of the same protocol for the Clean Energy Commission. do a roll call, and I can see that we have Stephen Sack and we have Catherine Deviney, so that's 3 out of 5, so we have a quorum. I also see that, Catherine is reminding me that from the standpoint of procedure, everybody that's on the Conservation Commission is actually a member of the public, so you can speak in that fashion, I guess. I think hopefully we can be a little bit more sort of just conversational in this process. So we have a roll call. Stephen and Catherine, we actually have to approve 2 months worth of minutes because I think they weren't posted the last time around. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? Stephen, I don't know if you're on.
I motion to approve the August and September minutes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great, okay. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the minutes are approved. Our second agenda item is really to just acknowledge the fact that we have 1 vacancy. We are in search of a Republican member. We haven't received any nominations that fit that bill from the town council, and pending the organizational issue of whether these 2 commissions come together, we're not really that active in trying to solve that vacancy. Catherine, I think you've noted that both our commission and the Conservation Commission have to come up with a 2023 meeting schedule. That's a little bit dependent on whether we go into 2023 as 2 commissions, or my hope anyway is that we go in as 1 commission. And I think your recommendation was to push that to the next month.
Yes, the town clerk sent around, and Emily probably got it too, a notice that we needed to pick our meeting dates and send that notice back to the town clerk's office. What I was hoping, Bernie, maybe we could do in light of the, in light of like what we said, the commission's potentially joining and or meeting together like this going forward until that might happen, that maybe we can decide. I think the Clean Energy Commission typically meets on Wednesdays, and the Conservation and Environment Commission typically meets on Mondays. So maybe we want to kind of pick one of those, and then at the next meeting we can set our schedules the same. Maybe Emily, I think, has her hand up. Bernie.
Yeah, or Sean was first.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't
Perhaps
see
on
Sean.
the-
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean. I can hear you, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Sean, I can't hear you.
Yeah, we're having a little trouble there.
Can you hear me now?
Not very well.
Hold on.
If you possibly, Sean, you might be able to text in your comment. If that helps. Emily, it looks to me like Sean is frozen. Why don't you go ahead and
Yeah, so I was just going to say that Mondays are troublesome with holidays, and my personal preference would be to consolidate on Wednesdays, but we can put it to a vote. Mondays are challenging. Like when you look at the calendar and it's like Memorial Day and various other holidays on Mondays, just Wednesdays are cleaner typically.
Okay.
Emily, you heard back from Kim, me, and Ted, and we all agreed with you Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I think we all agreed, if we could, to be in person, but that's subject to everybody talking about that more.
Right.
Okay, sounds like we have a solid vote for Wednesday. And the only trouble with meeting in person is that we won't have all this technical difficulty to enjoy, which I've come eventually to kind of love it. And Sean I saw your text. You serve on the Republican committee, and you're working on filling that vacancy, and which is great. Welcome. And as we go forward, you know, it might be on a, I don't know how quickly the town council can work on putting these two commissions together. So we'll have to see what we look like in terms of filling vacancies, but we should forge ahead. Okay. And now I think it's time to do some welcomes and introductions. Particularly, please, Rosina, you can, well, I'll show the agenda, share the agenda quickly. We weren't sure whether you'd be here or not, so we have you on as a tentative, but how about Catherine, can you sort of take us around and sort of introduce the students, and then Rosina, and then
Sure. So I don't know all the students, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But at our last Clean Energy Commission meeting, we decided we wanted to renew our invitation to both Hall and Conard students to participate as student representatives on the Clean Energy Commission, because we feel that the youth voice is very important in general and very important to the work that this commission does. So luckily I reached out through some of my student connections, and we have some representatives here today. So maybe we can just go around. How about Dawson, why don't you start and we'll go from there.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm from Hall. Dawson, as you just said, sorry. Everyone's glitching out a little bit, so just let me know if you can't hear me or anything. Yep, I'm one of the leaders I'm a senior and I'm one of the leaders for Environmental Club this year. And I looked over the energy plan and everything, and I'm just excited to be here. So maybe we could communicate a little bit without Hall can maybe contribute or help with this plan, or just know what the town is doing so we can help in any way. So thank you.
And we have Nathaniel, I think, as well.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Nathaniel Goldschmidt. I also go to Hall. I'm a sophomore. And I read over the energy plan as well, and I think it's great, and I'm excited for working with you. Thank you.
well, I think it's fair. This is Bernie. It's fair to say we are very happy to have you here. I think we've been working at this and inviting folks for the better part of a year, so we're glad to have your presence here. As Catherine said, it's so important to have representatives in high school and college, certainly younger than most of us on these commissions, because you have a long future ahead of you, and certainly a different perspective to share. And
we were going to have a representative from Conard, but I don't see anyone else on the call. So maybe next month.
And before we switch over to Rosina, I think we have to say that, as I understand the rules of these commissions, the youth representatives will not be able to be voting members, because to be a commission member with voting privileges, you have to be a voter in town. At least that's how I understand it. Having said that, when we're in operation here, we just kind of work conversationally. We're not that formal, and so your input will be heard and acted on and important. And seldom do we have to vote, really, only on occasion. So just want to point that technicality out. So should we switch over to you, Rosina? I mean, we've certainly we've been looking to connect with you, to connect with the public schools, to really focus on matters of equity, and recognizing that we haven't been as successful at that endeavor as possible. So very glad that you are here, and sort of maybe if you can tell us a little bit about your role and how we can engage with you to go forward with these goals.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back this time with the collective bodies to continue my efforts to listen and learn about each of the commissions. I serve as the Executive Director for Equity Advancement for both the town and the Board of Education. I've been with the West Hartford Public Schools for 16 years in both building level leadership and central office capacity. I have had the wonderful opportunity to work directly with students. It was great to be on this call recently to hear Nathaniel's voice and what he cares about, and have had wonderful interactions with Dawson, who's supported our community equity efforts. So I'm really here in trying to visit each of the commissions. I'll have one tomorrow night as well, to just listen and learn about your goals, you know, what you care about. How much you care about the town is very clear to me in the way that you have chosen to serve the community in this meaningful way. I am interested in your mission as well as challenges, things that might be getting in the way, and your needs. I have some personal, professional interests that align or intersect with many of the commissions, including yours, and from what I know about your goals. But one of my first priorities was to complete the recruitment and selection process for an equity coordinator, full-time equity coordinator that will report to me. So I'm pleased to announce that successful completion. We've named Adrian Billing-Smith, former town council member, as our full-time equity coordinator, and she will report to me and engage in the daily work, including interactions with our boards and commissions. I may not be able to stay on for quite as long as I had before. I have a team here with me who are patiently waiting for my involvement in the planning of professional development for tomorrow morning, starting at 7. And so we had an emergency drill here in Town Hall this evening, and so we lost some time prior to this meeting. But I'm here, and I'm sure this won't be our last interaction. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much. It's great after all this time to connect, and I think I speak for Emily and the Conservation Commission too. I think we are interested in branching out to areas where we're just not present, and I think we really could use some help with that. It sounds like you and staff are the ideal helpers on that. And Emily, you had no, that was Kim that had her hand up.
Hi, thanks, Bernie, and welcome everyone, Rosina and Nathaniel and Dawson. So I don't know if this is the right time, but I think we're moving past this, and I wanted to just highlight, we touched on it very briefly, the idea of an open seat on the commissions. And I know obviously we're going through this process where all of this might change as, you know, maybe we consolidate. But I know I'm new to commissions. I started in January. There's still a lot about these processes that I don't know. But to me, the way that we reach out to people in our community to even let people know that there's an open seat, I mean, that is like screaming out to me like opportunity to engage people that have never been engaged before. And I guess I do understand this is a Republican seat, but or, you know, this is, you know, a designated seat for a Republican, but I don't think that changes like this opportunity. So I mean, just an opportunity and a need, that's what I'm seeing. So and then one more quick thing, I'm sorry, for Dawson and Nathaniel, I just wanted to make sure you guys, I wonder if you guys have heard the news that in New Haven, a climate emergency resolution that was passed by the town a couple years ago has just recently been passed by the Board of Ed in New Haven. So I thought that was interesting and lots of implications, but I can send you guys information on that later. Maybe everyone is interested as well. So thank you.
Kim, if I can just respond to part of that, and Kim was one of the first people that reached out to me. Actually, I didn't know that the announcement had been made about my appointment until I had received an email from Kim congratulating me. And you know, there was a sense of urgency to just pick my brain and talk and lean into explore ways that we can increase reach and representation across all of our boards. And so that is of considerable interest to me. And I've already started to work with the town clerk as well as our corporate counsel. And Kim, like you, I'm learning and finding there's so many complexities to it. But we have such a diverse town. And I think that having multiple perspectives, dynamic talent is really important to advance some of our goals.
And I'll just quickly add on to what Kim said. I've been on a commission for a long time, and I'm discovering that I don't know the rules either. So there's no worry there. Just to pick up on the point I think you started to raise, if indeed we're combined, and I think we will be, at that point, I think all of us effectively we're a little bit like hermit crabs. I think we're thrown out of the commissions that we're now members of. And I think we'll, depending on what the town council and the powers that be basically come up with, we'll be, asking, they'll restaff the joint commission, probably from some of our group and with perhaps others. So just to pick up on that point. Very good. Okay, we have a little bit of old business, and which I'd like to go through relatively quickly, but I think it would be.
Bernie, before we move on, could
Yeah.
we just, I know Catherine has her hand up. If we could just do introductions, we have 2 more people on the call.
Please.
And then Catherine and I had, and this may be what Catherine wanted to mention, we have, since we're talking about making connections and membership, Catherine and I made some connections recently with West Hartford Public Schools. I also see Dave Mello joined us too.
Excellent. Hi, Dave. Go ahead, Catherine.
With the 2 Catherines, it's complicated. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Catherine, the recycling coordinator, and I know I've emailed with Nathaniel, so it's nice to meet you. And nice to meet you too, Dawson, because I've been looking for connections at Hall High School. And I just want to take a moment here to, in case people hadn't heard, that West Hartford was granted one of the big CCSMM grants. It was announced yesterday, the $5 million that was being dispersed for waste mitigation to go towards curbside food scrap collecting and tied with unit-based pricing. And so we are going to pilot it, and I'm going to need advocates and high schoolers and people who can share the news of this really great opportunity for West Hartford to be at the forefront of waste reduction through, taking food scraps out of our waste stream and getting the news around. So I look forward to connecting with both of you to see how we can partner with Hall High School, and so we'll be in touch.
And just following on to Catherine Bruns's comments, I'm Catherine Deviney, the energy specialist. Catherine and I met last week with Ann McKiernan, who's the new assistant superintendent of West Hartford Public Schools on the operations side, just to talk strategically about any sustainability goals, energy goals, or recycling goals that the West Hartford Public Schools might have, and in general, how we can bolster the connections, with commissions, with students, the communication about various town initiatives, and what West Hartford Public Schools wants to do on the sustainability front. I think there was both in terms of, people presence and website presence and projects and whatever. So we're trying to build more of a linkage between the town and West Hartford Public Schools, and support them from a staff perspective, but also, making those connections between all of us as well.
If I could follow on that, Catherine, the schools in West Hartford are such a powerful force. I will say that part of that power is they focus, and it's been difficult to actually promote a message from like the Clean Energy Commission. I think because the schools are so bombarded with people who want to do that. And so I'm very sympathetic to the idea that we can't just use the schools as a megaphone. That's, I get that. But if we could work on a connection on important issues that are really important to the schools and the town, and use that connection in a more productive fashion, that would be an enormous step forward, I think. And Nathaniel and Dawson, your presence here, I think, is also another way to engage the schools. So, all for that.
Bernie, that was one of the many items that Catherine and I talked about with Anne, and the conversation was wide ranging. And she asked, we're going to continue meeting with her. She wants to kind of digest this first round of information, think a little bit more strategically, talk to people on her side. But I think the first step was to open the communication lines, and we did that.
That's
Yeah,
excellent.
we threw a lot of information at her at the first meeting, but she was very open to it, and really wants to move forward with the schools being a conduit for sharing the town's sustainability activities. So that was really great to have an ally there.
I'll just say one last thing, and we'll go into the old business and go through that relatively quickly. Is there's clearly an academic element to middle school and high school that's really important, but there's a real world element, whether it be how the town thinks about its greenscape, its water, how we dispose of our trash, how we consume our energy. All of these things would just be such fertile ground for an academic perspective, whether it be math or earth science or biology, to intersect with the reality of our town. I just get excited thinking about taking all that energy and applying it in town in a way I think it could be good all the way around. So.
Hey Bernie, has anyone also thought about inviting Northwest Catholic or Kingswood, or we can't do that because they're private and not necessarily West Hartford public schools?
I would think. Well, go ahead, Catherine.
We could invite them, and also representatives from those schools would be welcome to attend as members of the public as well. In the interest of ease, the Clean Energy Commission just worked within the public sector, within our own organization, to kind of reach out to the two public high schools. But there is nothing barring participation from private schools.
Okay.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. And I think we were working in what we thought would be the easiest connection to make. And so, okay.
Dawson has her hand up.
Dawson. I think you're on mute there.
You think by now I'd be a pro at this after online school, but I guess not.
No.
So I'd just like to add on to that education piece. I'm also actually very excited. I didn't know about the $5 million waste mitigation thing, Ms. Bruns. So that was like really exciting, because at Hall, we have a lot of pride right now in like the worm bedding that we've been able to start. So I'm sure everyone, or some people may be aware of this or not, but we're at this point, I think we're going to get 4 more because of the grants we got last year. But we have this like tiered like worm bed system that we're able to use for like Hall's first large scale garden. And then it's not only saving our school money, but it's like much more like environmentally friendly now, because we're able to use the scraps from the school cafeteria and then make lettuce harvest lettuce for the school lunches. But then on top of that, because I know you were talking about education, our hope is to hopefully speak to middle schoolers at KP, because their teachers have expressed interest in starting the same thing. So I think that the schools, there is so many, like we have many people in our clubs, there are a lot of people that want to help out. And I think just spreading that education, spreading that we have like these resources now with the $5 million to really get more systems going. And I think the more schools that we invite like for these conversations, like the bigger this could be. So thank you again for having me and Nathan here today.
That is amazing to hear that's going on at Hall and offline. Maybe we can further that conversation. I want to be clear that it was Connecticut DEP dispersed $5 million worth of grants across the state, and West Hartford received a portion of that specifically for food scrap, curbside food scrap composting and unit-based pricing for trash. So, but we can always be looking for other monies.
I'm gonna. Could I ask? I just got a text from Catherine. Jim, you're on. Sean, I know you're on. Emily, you are on the Conservation Commission. Michael, Michael Coca? Are you from the public, or are you on?
I'm from the public. I was looking to make a public comment question when the turn came.
All right, let's go. There's a public comment section at the end of this, and if you can endure this, or is it short and you want to do it right now?
I don't care. It's up to you guys. As you guess from my background, I do have some knowledge on clean energy. I guess my comment is short. It's a comment question. I've been involved or found out during a review of the KO kicking out the Children's Museum and it getting replaced by a development in the rezoning, the design review committee's review of that zoning doesn't really take into account clean energy goals. That is not no sustainability review comments are offered. And I see a lot of the development around town doesn't include clean energy comments. And I think that's a missed opportunity. We should at least be using the advisory portion of that design review and advisory committee to provide clean energy inputs. And I think the development going in place of the Children's Museum is rather egregious in its lack of having modern clean energy comments. But that's it. Just how do we get our input into comments made to the requests for new development?
So as not to delay our progress here any further, I'll just leave your comment there. Other than to say I welcome that comment, I agree with your comment, and it's going to be something we're going to talk about later in the agenda. So thank you for that. So under old business, we've got a couple in-flight projects that I just want to give a quick update to. Heat Smart West Hartford is something that we've been working on since the beginning of this year. It's an education and outreach campaign. We did receive a grant from Eversource to promote what is called home energy solutions. So we come into people's homes and seal them up and make them be more energy efficient. We were the second town in this round of grantees to meet our goal. So we've exceeded our goal of 334 homes that have gone through that process. And we're going to continue. We have funds remaining in the grant. So we're really going to, we met last night and we're laying out a program to continue to apply those funds to HES income eligible. And I think we're also eligible to think about how we get West Hartford businesses involved in energy efficiency, which we're lucky to have Stephen Sack on our commission, and he was instrumental in setting up something with the Chamber of Commerce, which I think we'll be able to replicate and maybe even expand upon with these additional funds. So that's Heat Smart.
Bernie, I just wanted to comment that after we sent a mailing out to multifamily property owners and landlords, I continue to receive phone calls in. I think this is the most productive mailing we've done. I received a couple more phone calls today about people who were very interested in signing their properties up for that. So I've been sure to tell them to mention Heat Smart West Hartford and that they're a multifamily owner. And yes, that's it.
And if I get, thank you, Catherine, because that was a big deal. And maybe I'll just say this for Rosina's consumption. we've reached out essentially to homeowners up to now, but we've recognized, and it's been explained to us, that renters often are in a situation where they don't have control of their premises. They have high energy bills if they're paying the bills because the building may not be that efficient. And so the mailing that Catherine's referring to, we actually found about 1,200 2, 3, and 4 family homes in West Hartford, and we made them aware of programs that will be beneficial to them as the landlord, but will also benefit their tenants by. And so, and
This was, Rosina, this is collaboration with our tax assessor who provides that information so that we can target our mailings.
And we're realizing, Catherine's name was on, and phone number was on the bottom. We're realizing how little outreach we've done in the past because they're calling up Catherine and saying, is this real or not? So I'm very, very glad about that.
I'm happy to hear about that and learn more about that, because my office, I have a licensed clinical social worker in my office, and we're approaching a time in the season where we often get calls from families who are impacted because, you know, they're getting heat shutoff notices, utility shutoff notices, and the cost is just absorbent for them. And if children are at home and they can't, they're cold, or they're not, you know, in an environment that's conducive to learning, their education's impacted. And so we have these fixes where we come to their rescue, but it's not deep enough, it's not sustainable. So I'm very enlightened to hear this and would love to hear more about it and figure out how we could collaborate in that effort.
I'm glad to hear that you're on the case too, and I think part of you used that magic word sustainable, which is I think why we're all here tonight. But yeah, the ideal would be to rescue a family or an individual from a shut off or something like that, and in sort of in that same maneuver, if we can seal up their premises in a way that makes the bills going forward less and makes their comfort more. I think that's sort of the win-win for everybody. Actually, on that very theme, we had on Thursday evening an insulation webinar, because perhaps the single most underappreciated energy efficiency tool in our toolbox is insulation. And I think people think of West Hartford as a well-off town, as relatively, at least, a wealthy town. But from my own observation and my own experience, I think many of our homes, even well-to-do homes, are so poorly insulated that we're just wasting massive amounts of energy. And so this we had New England Smart Energy. They were the presenter, did an excellent job of laying it out of why you get insulation, how you get insulation, what the different types are, what the rebates are. And as soon as we get the YouTube video up, we're going to share that more broadly. We also did an experiment with this. We reached out to other towns. So it was it was hosted by the West Hartford Public Library, but we had people from Branford, New Britain, Stonington, and I think there was one other town perhaps that was in there. So we're trying to even branch out beyond town borders on some of these things. Just to let people know, even as we're having this meeting here this evening, the New England the new Elmwood Community Center discussion is being presented to the public. Joe Campanella, Catherine, and myself represent the Clean Energy Commission. What's happening now is that the 100 Mayflower Street School is the new site of the new Elmwood Community Center, and Tecton and Associates is conducting a, what would you call it, Catherine, a prototyping or an advisory sort of community engagement on it. And so we're representing the clean energy component. When this building, and this kind of goes to Michael Coca's point, if he's still on, when this building is built, it will be a net zero building. make as much power as it uses. We'll use geothermal, and so it will be an energy efficient building going forward.
So Tecton Architects right now is working on the feasibility study, and that really is just an initial process to decide whether we will build a new building or renovate the existing building, the old school that is on that site. So that's the piece that's being worked on right now. This evening, they're holding a public input session down at Elmwood, Tecton Architects, and tomorrow evening, Bernie and I and Bernie and Joe Campanella are the Clean Energy Commission representatives. I'm also on the advisory committee as staff. And so the advisory committee will be meeting again tomorrow evening to go over some of additional public input that was brought in to the process today.
And Catherine, since you have the mic, could you talk a little bit about the federal funds, the ARPA?
I think Sean has a question, his hand up.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Sean. And you might have to try one more time. I think you might have to text. Appears to be frozen.
Would you like me to move?
Will the St. His question is, will the St. Bridget location need remediation?
I don't know whether they've done those assessments yet. I think maybe I'm sure it is. It's in a very old building, so you kind of assume that there's contamination there. So that would be factored into this feasibility study, depending on which way they decide to go.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Catherine. I think by virtue of when it was built, I'm pretty sure that there are things in the windows and there's probably stuff in the heating system that's going to be tough to remediate. Okay. John, your hand is still up. Do you have another question, or you want to? Conservation Commission will need to figure on the effect of remediation, which, yes, I agree with. Okay. Catherine, you want to talk about these funds?
Sure. So I just wanted to let everyone know, in case they hadn't heard, that last night the town council did move to appropriate the $140,000 worth of sustainability projects. Both of our commissions, Clean Energy and Conservation and Environment, wrote a joint letter of support after your last meetings, asking the council to proceed with that appropriation of the ARPA funds. So those projects have been approved and will be proceeding. And again, just as a refresher, the money, the $140,000 was to fund three kind of things. One was a tree canopy study. The other were pollinator gardens, and the other were rain gardens. I think, if I'm correct, those were the three buckets of money. I spoke with Helen Rubino Turco, the Director of Leisure Services today, and she assured me that members of our commission would be invited to be representatives as part of and she would love to have the participation of members of this commission in a work group, any kind of work groups. They haven't quite figured out how they're going to put together the team that will work on these. An RFP will need to go out for a tree canopy study, and there will need to be some decisions about, what type, how broad, what scope of that study we want. Some are more detailed than others, so we'll need some input into that, as well as the gardens or anything like that. So I would ask, we can ask right now if anyone is really super excited to be part of that working group. I can pass names on to Helen. She will also have people from outside organizations on those working groups as well. Kim's saying she's interested. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to contribute to that.
Emily, okay. And was that Sean? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah. Emily's saying she'd love to be on the tree canopy effort.
Oh, Emily was tree canopy. Okay, yeah, and there may be different working groups. That's what I'm saying for each one. So, Kim, are you particularly interested in one more than the other, or?
I'm
all of
interested
them?
in all of them.
Okay,
but,
that's fine too.
I
I
mean,
would-
they're connected, and especially though, like the rain garden, pollinator garden, that's almost like the same thing.
And
So
I don't know what the plan is for how she's going to structure this. It may be one big group. It may be separate groups. So I'm just going to connect you guys together. How about, and I'll ask, how about students? Do you think any people at your schools might be interested in this? This was some federal grant money that the town has now decided they're going to spend for this specific purpose. So if any of you guys, I know you have a lot on your plates, your schoolwork and extracurriculars, but if there's any super interest in participating on that, I'm happy to connect you as well. Or once we have more information, we can run it by you guys.
and for the students, like a schoolyard habitat, you know, which would very much be a part of this. I mean, that is the potential, right? Like take like the landscape at an average school in our town and like convert it to something that's living and cleaning our water, air, and soil. And so like if it hasn't gotten attention yet at your schools, it's like huge benefits and easier than veggies is what I would chime in with. Something to think about.
Like Catherine, Sean was asking, are these grants coming through Leisure Services? Are they sort of the administrative body with this?
Yes, I think, yes, these were projects proposed by Helen and Leisure Services. So yes.
So we can all come at conservation, energy, and people on anybody in West Hartford. This is open to all, basically.
The working group?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think the idea is to convene some people with interest and or expertise to help the town implement the projects that were proposed and now funded.
Okay, and Catherine, you listed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and also the IRA.
Yeah, I think we can probably hold on them. Just know that the town will be receiving 100. This is an estimate, but the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Acts put forward some formula-based grant funding, and from the calculations that have been provided to me, I think we will be getting the town of West Hartford about $137,000 in energy efficiency conservation block grant funds that can be spent on certain things within reason that fall within the scope of that type of grant. So maybe at a later meeting, we can discuss potential recommendations for uses of that money. And then as Bernie's pointed out, the Inflation Reduction Act maybe doesn't provide as much direct funding, but offers a lot of incentives and financing and tax-based incentives for people to do energy efficiency and renewable energy work. So we will want to be thinking long-term about maybe packaging those two things together and or doing a lot of education and promotion around what's covered in the IRA.
Certainly, the IRA is just an enormous program. Some pieces of it are relatively clear. Those that are essentially like tax incentives, where the federal government can say what's going to happen. What is not clear at all yet is those funds that are going to come down and be administered by state agencies, because they have to go to the state agency, and the state agency has to take the money and turn into programs, and that takes a while. So that's going to be the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Department of Housing, Department of Transportation. All those agencies are going to receive funds and somehow turn it into programs that we either as individuals or as municipalities will be able to access. Not clear yet what that's all about, how that's going to shake out. Definitely, along with many other people in Connecticut, be looking very closely at what that's going to turn into. Okay. Couple items. So under new business, I've got really 3 items. The first is I almost feel like we've entered the twilight zone. I don't even know if younger people even know what the twilight zone is, but just suffice it to say that about 3 weeks ago, I received a note from the Korean consulate in New York asking if they could come to visit West Hartford. And I got to be perfectly honest with this group. My thought was that this was clearly some sort of email scam and that they were somehow going to get into my banking account or something like that. But no, it turned out that really the Korean consulate was interested in coming to see us. And the background to that was last year, our mayor, Mayor Cantor, won an award for, I think it was, the category was small towns in the US. So it was a national award for West Hartford's participation in what's called virtual net metering. We actually have a solar facility that's probably 50 miles from here, but we are the so-called off-taker. This is a very innovative program, and actually Catherine, I think, worked to get Hartford on board, so it was really West Hartford and Hartford. But Mayor Cantor won that award and got some apparently international press as a result of that. So that's how they found West Hartford. So long story short, on November 9th, we're having a delegation of, I'm seeing Catherine smile as I say this, of 18 folks from, I would say 18 people like Catherine, but from a Korean town. So Catherine's our energy specialist. These might be sustainability coordinators. They might be, some of them, I think one individual is working on clean water and sewage, but they're technical people in small towns and not so small towns in Korea coming here to learn something about what we're doing. So I just passed that on November 9th. We're pretty excited. We'll be doing a presentation, and then they're going into Yukon to a climate conference, I think.
We're excited and a little nervous because this is still a little strange.
It is. Catherine, we have 2 items next, update on the Sustainability Commission and then update on the energy plan. If I could, I would like to switch up the energy plan first, because I think it would be an example of how we might work together with the Conservation Commission. Are you able to pull up the red line document that, and if you're not, I can try to do it here. But
yeah, let me find it. I think I have it right here on my desktop. Hold on 1 second.
The other thing actually that the Korean delegation is coming up to see, aside from virtual net metering, is to look at our energy plan. And part of our energy plan, we have an element of that that says every 2 years we're going to update it. And I'm very grateful that both of the students here read through that plan. I bet you there's not too many people who have done that.
Can you see my screen?
We can, Catherine, that's perfect. So there's lots and lots of stuff in this energy plan about the status quo and how many houses and how many cars and what we aspire to do. But the operative piece is really, we set a goal for ourselves. We give ourselves sort of 2 years. Yeah, there we go. That's So we're in the 2021, 2022, that little box there. These are the things that we set ourselves to do. And then I think, Catherine, on the next page, you basically tracked whether we did what we said we were going to do. And
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. And this tracking, the red was added. Oh, and this might not be the latest one because this is all in red. I thought I had some that were red and some that were yellow and some that were green. Anyway, this tracking, the last time we went over this tracking was in December. So this may not be the final version of it, but this was how we were kind of gonna track it and then maybe update.
Yeah, and I think for the purposes of this conversation, I won't make everybody read what, at least on my computer, is small print. Other than to say the way we've been operating is to set ourselves a series of goals and then track our progress against that. And so the next time we talk about this, we are going to take the things that we said we were going to do that we didn't finish and set them up to be completed in the next 2-year plan cycle, as well as add new things to the plan. And certainly an example of a new thing that I want to add to our plan would be to actually have a greater focus on equity and connecting more broadly in our community. But
Bernie, if I might add for Michael, who made that lovely public comment, I just point out there are a few things on the list here, such as item number 5, which says not done. Can you hear me? All right. But this says work with town and staff to explore how energy efficiency and clean energy adopted could be accelerated through codes. And there are some other things like that which might play into Michael's comments about getting ahead of development and encouraging it or requiring it to be more efficient. I think there are several items in this plan, I can't remember where they are, but that address that very issue.
and this might be so I think if it's a town building, we're going as we're seeing with the Elmwood Community Center rebuild or refurbishment, whichever way we go, it will be net zero. I think buildings that are on the town land, and I'm thinking of the Delamar, they have to be built to LEED Gold standard. And there's an active program within the municipal buildings, all 16 schools and all our different town buildings, to make them more efficient and site more renewable on them. But the gaping hole is we have lots and lots of commercial development, and for that matter, residential development. That is a golden opportunity to do better, and that's where we're going to try to find a way, either by example. I doubt. Well, let me not try to solve it now, but I think it's your point is well taken. Let's put it that way, and the timing is good too, because we want to do what we can within this plan structure.
So Bernie, when plans come before DRA, they don't talk about LEED specific requirements that they try to recommend to developers for commercial residential development.
I have to admit that. Actually, tell me, DRA is what, the Department of
Design Review Advisory Committee.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And they basically recommend to zoning, and things don't get passed unless DRA signs off on the development.
To my understanding from my involvement in the 2 recent developments at the Children's Museum and at 92924 Farmington, the DRAC, their acronym DRAC, does not include that as part of their review.
Okay, that's so very surprising, actually, since
and that's my suggestion, that if we're doing a zoning change, at least the that we should be able to do is make recommendations to achieve our energy plan and at least have some of these goals be accommodated.
Okay.
Yeah, and Michael, I think you sent me an email on this very subject, and that's precisely was my suggestion as well. I think we recognize there's another gap between what one committee and commission is doing and another one. So, I think it's not the first time we've recognized it, but now maybe we have a path to a solution where we can work together with another commission, just like we're trying to build bridges here so that we're not operating in silos, and DRAC understands what we're trying to do and can fold some of our recommendations and reviews into their process as well. I'm not really familiar with the DRAC process either. Neither is Bernie, and maybe that's our fault, or maybe it's their fault. But now we see where there might be some benefit to working together.
And I comment, I could see quickly that Sean Daly and Emily noted that the Conservation Commission used to review some of these things. However, even they reviewed them mostly from a wetland standpoint, not an energy standpoint. So I think we're recognizing in this, this myriad of commissions that we have some pretty big holes. And so our hope is we'll be much more focused and effective.
And I'll just make the comment that I think if they were here today too, maybe Bike Ped would like to be at the table at DRAC asking about how that development is connected and to bikes and public transportations, and they would like a seat at the table too, which is one of the, I think, underlying reasons for a more comprehensive sustainability commission.
So I wanted to just show this. Again, I don't expect people to zero in on the words, although I think the interchange that we just had was a good one of the type of thing we're going to try to tease out in the next couple months to get the next round of the plan up and running. But the reason I wanted to talk about this in advance of talking about how the Sustainability Commission, if that's what we're going to call ourselves, will work, is to say one of the things that I think is a great opportunity for the Conservation Commission to work alongside of the Energy Commission would be to take what we now have as an energy plan. And my hope is we'll keep an energy plan, but I would think that we should have other plans. So for example, a waste plan. It might be to have West Hartford environment, or a series of things, so that if you want to consider the energy plan as a chapter, if we took all the additional chapters and put them into a book, we'd have a sustainability plan at the end of that. So I think, I think for the members of the Conservation Commission, think in terms perhaps of let's write some additional chapters, and that will flesh out the projects that we want to work on. It will give us a pathway to engage with the community and give us a way to work with each other. So that was sort of the comment that I wanted to make. And Catherine, I think we want to talk a little bit about the technicalities of the commission. I think we have some questions that we have to answer. We have some really pretty nitty-gritty type of stuff we have to sort out.
Yes. So I'll pull that up on the screen. So as Bernie was talking there, and I'm just going to say this because these things pop into my head. As Bernie was talking about this new plan, what pops into my head is thinking of a plan that leads us down the path to zero. That was the name of a series of newspaper articles that Catherine just put me onto lately. But getting to zero is a lot of places, whether it could be zero emissions or zero waste, or as I recently learned at the Bike Ped Commission, it could be zero fatalities. So I think that kind of, I'm just throwing it out there as maybe a way to tie all these different pieces together into one plan.
So that's pretty cool.
Okay, let me pull up my other page. This one, is it? Yes. Can you guys still see My screen?
We can see next steps tracking, so maybe
Oh, maybe I'm on the wrong. You can still see this. Okay.
probably have to shut it down. And
I'm sharing one. Stop sharing. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to pull up right now are some questions. So this was provided to me. Is it big enough or shall I make it bigger?
we can see down through 1 through 7.
Yep. I'm going to zoom though to make it a little bigger for you, right? Maybe this wasn't oh, it's down the bottom, isn't it? Zoom's down here. That's a much easier way to zoom. Okay.
Right.
So this is an update on the kind of potential merging of the commissions. So as you know, both Clean Energy and Conservation and Environment voted to pursue the merger, so to speak. Bike Ped at their last meeting voted not to pursue that, but they'd like to still keep abreast of what's going on. And they're going to have some further discussion at their next meeting. Some people in that commission support the idea, others did not. So moving on, this is a list of some of the information and input that Cynthia Latour, Assistant Corporation Counsel, would need. And she provided this list, and the red is items that I added to start drafting that ordinance. So we can talk about it, and Bernie and Emily, we can decide on a path forward. We can talk about all these items openly and jointly. We could form kind of, discuss them in brief today and form more kind of a working group. But then the idea would be that maybe by the next commission meeting, whether it's a Clean Energy Commission meeting that Conservation and Environment attends or the other way around, that we might be further along in kind of a draft ordinance.
Yeah, I think Emily and company, my thought would be to get these questions and set up like a Google Doc meeting, draft them up so that we could all see what's being come up with as close to a consensus, or at least identify things that we can't agree on, but narrow it down. And
this is Emily. Sorry, I had to turn off my video and dial in by phone. I'm the 0809 phone number because the connection was crummy and I couldn't hear you and look at the screen at the same time. I think before I would want to vet the Google Docs plan with Cynthia. I'm not sure that would be consistent with our open meeting requirements.
No, it's not. We can't do it by Google Docs. No. So what we can do is maybe we should just go through these questions, because some of them might be in agreement on, others we can, my suggestion would be maybe go through it quickly and then designate, rather than have all of us. I mean, if everybody wants to participate, we can continue to do it that way, but it might be a little overwhelming. Or we could designate a couple of people from each commission to form a working group. So not a full quorum that has to be a public meeting. They can meet with Cynthia and me separately once we've heard and collect input from all the commissioners, but then meet separately to kind of answer these questions and create a draft of that ordinance, which would then be brought back to a next public meeting. That is a path that would be acceptable to a corporation council.
makes sense to me. So you want to go through them quick now? And
works for me.
So how about name a commission, West Hartford Sustainability Commission? Or we could call ourselves Dunkin' Donuts, your choice.
Your name was fine with me, Bernie.
I'm not the one to go to for marketing.
I think that's it.
Bernie, I can't see the group anymore because I'm sharing my screen. So just, can someone be aware if anybody's commenting or raising their hand or putting it in the chat?
I'll take a look.
Okay.
I can't see everybody either, but I can see some people.
Kim Hughes here, and I like that simple and clear kind of standard name. So I'm in support.
So what I will just say is,
I just want to say Sean Daly has a comment asking for clarity for what this is for, the name. I just have that in the comment. You can clarify.
Yeah, Sean, so you were not present at our last meeting, but at the last meeting of the Conservation and Environment Commission, we voted to proceed, with working towards this merger. And I was not at the last clean energy meeting, but I gathered that you similarly voted to proceed working towards a merger.
We did. That's correct.
so this would be a drafting of an ordinance for a commission, what that commission is, whether it's the Energy Environment Commission, the West Hartford Sustainability Commission. We do not have to call it a commission. I was told by Cynthia it could be called a board if we prefer that name. Board and commission are essentially interchangeable from a legal standpoint for this purpose. Yeah, so these are some of the things that we need to give her some sense of. And again, it might not be the final because the town council has the final say in this. So these are, again, kind of our recommendations, but the town would like both commissions' input into the new ordinance. And the current ordinance that covers the Conservation and Environment Commission would then be repealed, or whatever, the nullified, or whatever the word is. I'm not quite sure. So that's it. One comment I'll make about the name is I know some of the folks on the Clean Energy Commission are familiar with the logo and the Facebook page Sustainable West Hartford. So just flipping the two words. So if for some reason, thinking in the future, I know the Clean Energy Commission has a logo. If we want to adopt a logo or something of that nature, or adopt the Facebook page, maybe we want to call ourselves Sustainable West Hartford Commission, not West Hartford Sustainability Commission.
Hey, Catherine, couldn't 4 or 5 of us meet with you in person with a document in front of us and spend an hour or two and get this done? If you do it now, this is too large a group. I mean, I'm willing to meet in an office building as one member of that and just run through this and get it done.
Yeah, I think Jim, and I think Bernie and Emily and Jim, I think what we want to do is just get a sense that we're all on the same page. If anyone has any glaring, or passionate thoughts about any one of these items, but then I think you're exactly right. We should get a smaller group of people together to hash out the specifics.
Okay.
So I think you're right.
Catherine?
We're on the same page. We want to be called Sustainability Commission, right? Something of that nature.
I think this is Kim. I think you were about to scroll down. That's just what I was going to ask you to do, is scroll down a little bit.
Gotcha. The whole thing is there now. So we need to decide on a name. Let's just run them through them quickly. We need to decide on a purpose or objective of the commission. So why this commission is being established. And Cynthia says the language she most likely will use is right there in italics. The purposes of this blank commission established shall be as follows. What I've included here in red And again, this is just giving you guys something to look at. It was something, it's the Bloomington, Minnesota Sustainability Commission's charter in their code. I liked a lot of what they had in there. It talks about making recommendations to town council. It also talks about being a change agent, engaging with residents and people like that. So you guys can take a look at that. We need to decide our membership. How many members should this commission have? Once we decide that, the quorum will be set by formula. I'm assuming we might agree that this commission is going to have over 9 members. So the quorum would be 2/3 of that. And one of those members would need to, the membership would also have to follow any of the other requirements of a commission. So I think one of those members needs to be a representative of the minority party. We also need to give some guidance of whether we want the terms of these commissioners staggered so they don't all expire at the same time. Per West Hartford's charter, commissioners are appointed in 2-year terms and then are eligible for a 2-year renewal. This was news to me because I know that the Clean Energy Commission, which was again established by resolution, we have 6-year terms.
Yeah, Conservation and Environment has 5-year terms, I think.
Well, so this is news to me. Cynthia's guidance says we should establish 2-year terms with the option for a 2-year renewal. But we may want initially, so that all the members don't expire at the same time, we could have half that members initially appointed for just 1 year, and then renewed for 2 years. So half the membership might get shortchanged 1 year there. We also may want to think about anything that would go into an ordinance. And again, we can recommend this. Rick or the town council may change the language about would this commission have staff liaisons? Do we want to put a number on that? Do we want to try and guarantee that we have at least one staff liaison? This ordinance likely would not get down into establishing, as it says at the top, any of the committees or working groups. That would be left kind of in the background for the commission itself to establish. My hope operationally would be that every one of those committees might have a staff liaison. But since we're not explicitly stating what committees there are, I don't think we can guarantee that in the ordinance. But there might be at least one staff liaison assigned, and then hopefully liaisons for every committee. Again, we would want to articulate with some language if we want the members of this commission to, and here's some suggested language, have a demonstrated concern for, desire to improve, professional or expertise in the fields of, that kind of thing. And again, that might be something that is looked for in the membership. We could also put things about diversity, whatever's important to us to be folded in there. The ordinance might also want to put in something about any particular positions or officers that the group wants to have, whether it's one chair, co-chairs, a vice chair. Cynthia would like it to explicitly mention a secretary. That is something that she's trying to build into most commissions because commissions struggle a lot with finding someone to take notes. So there should be someone designated, and then also what terms those people are having. And then this is kind of a two-way street here. Are there any specific things we want to put in the ordinance, such as the group presenting a yearly annual report to town council or submitting a work plan? This is kind of the Bloomington model and or might be similar to how we submitted our energy plan for approval by the town council. And now that's kind of our ongoing work plan. And then Cynthia says, you know, you can outline more specifics about what are in those documents, when it's submitted, if you want to coincide with budget cycles or anything like that. But that's maybe something we want to outline. And then is there anything else that you want to include as a requirement? And again, you can try and put stuff in there. This could be a two-way street where you want to require leadership to attend certain quarterly meetings. They may take it out, but you know, if there's anything else that you feel is necessary to the heart of the mission of this new commission, we could try and come up with some language to cover that.
Great.
Catherine, does the link above bring you to the entire Bloomington document? Because it was excellent. I think we all agree that it was a tremendous document to plagiarize from. So is this just specific to number 2, or is it the whole document?
The link that I have right there that I just highlighted takes you to the Bloomington Code directly, but you can on that same website get easily to the Sustainability Commission section, which has their work plan and some other documents in it.
Okay, thanks.
And I think I provided those links before. I'm happy to resend those if you want to take another look at them.
Yeah,
that's good. So I think our plan is to take these questions and get a group of us, maybe think it out a little ahead of time and then meet. And should we, in your office, Catherine, or with Cynthia?
And I think the Google Doc method is out, but if individual commissioners, and we can send around, this is a Word document that we can send around. If individual commissioners want to jot down if every individual commission would like to jot down their thoughts on these items, we can kind of compile that information, and then the smaller group can take that and go from there.
That sounds good. Yeah.
So I'm happy to serve as the repository for that information, and then I can share it out to whoever you guys designate is on the working group.
Yeah, it might be most efficient, like if someone is interested in these topics but not on the working group, to have them like fill it out like a worksheet so we can have their input in hand.
Yeah, I agree. And send it to Catherine. She could be the lucky recipient, and then
I'm not going to do anything with them. I'm just going to.
I hope not. We don't want the FOIA people after us.
Are you going to send us this list of 9? Because this right now is an attachment.
Yes.
Or send it to our chair, and the chair can get, Emily can give it to us. Anyway, we get it. I don't care.
Yeah. And who would like to be?
Yeah, Jim, I just got it myself, so I can circulate it to the Conservation and Environment folks.
Thank you.
Sounds, Jim, like you're volunteering to be on the small group?
Sure, absolutely. I think you need a couple.
I would also volunteer.
Yeah. A couple people from each commission.
Yep. And Stephen and David, either of you want to be on the small group?
And don't forget that, whatever the small group decides is going to come back in front of every.
All the carbon fiber option.
Right.
So,
right.
So don't feel obligated to be part of the small working group, because we're going to take all your feedback and Cynthia's gonna massage it and it's all gonna come back to you. So if you don't have time, don't feel obligated.
Yeah, I would definitely help out, but I am absolutely slammed at work these days.
Okay. Yeah, you got some important stuff going on, Stephen.
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to apologize for not showing up to the electric event at the center. I would have been there, but I was out for the count with COVID for about 4 days. And I felt it wasn't necessary for me to be filled with COVID going to one of those events.
Thank you for not coming. That's very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
I'm glad you survived.
Yeah, I can't believe I made it all this long until I got my first dose of COVID. I was able to stay clean till then.
Okay, Catherine, I think you've given us a good flavor for what these are. We'll get them out. I will say the email you sent my attachment didn't come through, but I took a screenshot of this so I can get it out to the guys.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay. Very good.
I just want to say that I'm happy to participate in that small group if you want it from the Public Works food scrap side. Just let me know if that would be useful.
Thank you. We'll take you up on that.
Okay.
I think.
And this is Kim here, and I'm sure we'll talk about a timeline. I definitely will be contributing like this worksheet with some ideas, and you'll mention, I'm sure we'll go over that. And then I also see that Rosina has a comment. Maybe, I see Rosina, so.
No, I just wanted to offer, I'm happy to provide my input and my 2 cents. There were some very interesting things that I saw in the Bloomington's Commission language. I think the Clean Energy Report plan is amazing and has a lot of good language that we should make sure that we utilize in terms of inclusivity and equity. But in particular, what I put in the chat box had to do with the statement about membership, select members, so that efforts to be made to select members so that the diverse interests of Bloomington's community are represented, including geographic diversity, education, student or youth, residents, businesses, faith-based and non-governmental organizations. I just think that there may be an opportunity or place for us to do a little bit better in terms of reach and representation, as Kim opened with.
That's great. And Rosina, I'll just state the obvious. We have some great words in the energy plan relative to diversity. We've got to replace the words with some deeds because we're really short on the deeds. Okay. Okay. We have a way forward, so we'll get this out. We have
I'll attach a timeline to it, like Kim said, kind of a deadline for the collective group comments.
Yeah.
And then I'll reach out to the work group and try and schedule some time with Cynthia and Catherine and Rosina, maybe at various points. There might have to be a couple of meetings before the next meeting, and I don't honestly know what Cynthia's workload is like, so we'll have to see how much bandwidth she has to work with us on this.
Okay. Catherine, you want to shoot down to staff reports? We've got a couple good things to talk about there.
Oh, sure. Well, I
can read it. Sustainable Connecticut Awards.
Oh yeah, read them all out to me first, because I lost my.
So Sustainable CT Awards on.
I have it back. I have it back on my screen. Okay, I'm good. Can you see my face or my screen?
We can see your face.
Okay, good. So first off, I just wanted to mention the Sustainable Connecticut Awards that are happening. In case some of you didn't know, on November 14th at 3 p.m. in West Hartford Town Hall, we are hosting the award ceremony for Sustainable Connecticut. They're holding it in West Hartford, and this is where I think it's about 25 towns or something are going to be receiving certification this year at various levels, either bronze or silver level in that program. West Hartford is already silver certified. We received that certification last year in 2021, but this year we are going to be receiving a climate leader designation award. Us and I think 4 other towns are part of a new designation that's a pilot program, and there are 5 towns who qualified for that climate leader designation. So the mayor will be accepting that award. They're going to announce it actually on November 1st at the CCM conference, and then the mayor will be attending again and accepting it, and probably as host, giving a little speech at the November 14th event as well. It's shaping up to be a really nice event in general. There'll be a lot of other towns there, both town staff and commission level folks just like us. So if anyone's interested in attending, I can send around again the registration link. I think I sent that already to the clean energy folks.
And Catherine, I just dropped it in the chat, so anybody that wants to just click on it in the chat can. But I think you should still send it out because.
Gotcha. So that's that. What was the second thing, Bernie?
Oh, back on. Hang on a second.
Oh,
we are talking about EV charging or
EV charging. Oh, before I get to EV charging, one good piece of news. I think we are finally about to place an order for the town's first electric vehicle. We are going to be purchasing a new Ford E-Transit van to replace our old nutrition services van. This is one of the highest mileage vehicles in the town fleet because it circles around to all the kitchens on an almost daily basis. We're going to paint it to promote it that it's a green zero energy vehicle. So it's going to have like a custom paint job as well as the nutrition services thing. I put in a grant. I can't even tell you how long and drawn out. I didn't realize how complicated the process of obtaining federal grant money is. This was CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Grant money, which comes down all the way from the Federal Highway Administration through Connecticut Department of Transportation. And you typically fund things like sidewalk improvements and traffic light improvements just to enhance flow. But last year they decided to expand their program to include electric vehicles. So we put in a grant, which is going to fund the kind of just a small portion, the incremental cost of the difference between the regular van and the electric van, which is about $10,000 or $12,000. So we're going to cover that incremental cost, and the van was due for replacement anyway. So it's kind of exciting though that the town's going to have its own first electric vehicle, and we'll be able to see firsthand. The fleet manager and I, I think everyone fully agrees that the operation and maintenance and let alone the emissions, the fuel costs are all going to be beneficial with the electric van versus the regular ICE vehicle. So we're excited about that. On the EV charging front, Public Works is heading kind of a more comprehensive town-wide initiative. And I know Hall, Dawson, your club has been interested in getting electric vehicle charger at Hall High School. And what I told your principal and Miss Noland is that this is kind of part of a larger process where the Public Works Department is looking at kind of a systematic town-wide charging network through town. They want to roll this out so that all the systems are the same, all the chargers are the same brand, it's all networked together. They have the same rules apply, whether it's on a school property or town property. And it's likely that parking operations will manage that system much as they do the pay for park system. So it really fit more under public works than it did in my realm in plant and facilities. They issued an RFP for a consultant. Unfortunately, they didn't get any responses. And I think they're going to pursue the path which I initially suggested to them, which was to contact some of the consultants on the state contracts or through CCM. We have consultants available to us that we can kind of work with directly. I think their RFP was a little too ambitious and probably scared some people off. So either they might issue a stripped down version or contact some consultants directly. And I hope that proceeds pretty quickly. What else is on my list, Bernie?
Soul Smart designation, maybe bronze.
Yeah, Soul Smart is kind of on hold. This is a kind of just a designation recognizing that towns have tried to look at and streamline their solar permitting processes. It's not off the table, but I think the priority right now is implementing a new online system for permitting in the town. And that needs to be a precursor before we kind of move forward with the designation. So it's not off the table, and I fully expect that a Soul Smart Bronze designation would be part of our next Sustainable Connecticut application.
Catherine, the only pressure I'll put on you is there's a lady in Stonington going for Soul Smart designation, and I've told her that we will beat her. So that's the only thing that I ask is as long as we beat Stonington, you can take as long as you want.
I'm not sure we'll do that. We're kind of at the mercy of the building department on that one.
I think that the next listed topic is RECs, renewable energy credits.
Yeah, just to let this group know that I will be soon issuing my annual quote requests for purchases of renewable energy credits, something that the town does every year.
And it's worth saying quickly that even though we generate a lot of power on town buildings, oftentimes the RECs that go with that power are owned by somebody else. So so that we can, in all honesty, say that we are buying renewable power and we have the right to those RECs. Catherine makes this purchase. It's not that much money, but important. And I think that's it. You have other. I don't know if that means anything to you.
Other, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Anything anyone wants to ask me about?
Can I?
Commonly known as public comment. So we
oh, go ahead. Actually, Dawson, go ahead.
Sorry, my connection keeps cutting out. But when Ms. Vinny, I know you were talking about the EV chargers, how that's kind of like going to be a uniform thing throughout the town, like at least like the charging networking. Me and Miss Nolan, who's me and Nathan's like leader for the environmental club, she was saying how Mr. Zatoon and like other people he had been talking to estimated that it would take like $10,000. What I don't really understand like what's going on through the town, but should we still as a club, because we've already had like fundraisers, still be like planning to like make money to have one eventually at Hall, or is that like through the town?
So I love that you guys were thinking of fundraising for electric vehicle chargers. So let me talk to Public Works about that. Sometimes it gets a little tricky. I know that Public Works has some town money already appropriated to go towards some of the planning and initial phases of electric vehicle charging. So sometimes it's tricky to mix different funding sources, but I'm sure they would love to talk to you about it. Yeah, these projects are going to be complicated because they're going to be a combination of town funds There's federal money coming from electric vehicles for electric vehicle charging that I hope they're applying for. There's utility money. There are some funds that can only be used for, the infrastructure, everything that goes under the wiring and stuff and all the conduit that goes under the parking lots, and then but it can't be used for the actual station itself. And there's other money that can only be used for the stations, but not the infrastructure. So it's going to be a really complicated project for them to piece together all of that. But I will connect you. I'll go ask Public Works and I'll get back to you and Ms. Nolan. I know her as well.
And
Great,
Dawson, I
thank
think
you.
you've given Catherine the mighty club of saying, if you guys don't get it together, Dawson and her compatriots are going to fix it. And I think if nothing else, we'll shame them into moving right along.
So
I'm only half kidding.
And one thing, Dawson, let me mention this too, and this goes to the coordination again between the town and the school side. The town guys, I can tell you right now, and this is something I've been kind of putting in their ear all along, they did not have any school properties on their list for kind of the first phase of EV charging rollouts. And I've been saying, no, like the schools want them, that, they need to at least be considered. You need to have a conversation with them. So I've been talking to Mr. Zatoon. I think is there a teacher named Matthew West or somebody at the
Yeah, Mr. West.
Yep. So Mr. West and Leanne Nolan. So I'm also going to try and set up a meeting between Public Works and them, and maybe you guys can be there as well, so that you can express your interest in it and why the high school. I think the high schools at least should be part of the initial rollout. I see Steve and Kim have some.
Hi, Kim here. I just wanted to mention something, especially as we talk about a connection with schools. There is something called the Greenleaf Schools program in Connecticut. It's not as closely maintained as it used to be, but if you go through this assessment tool, you will see a ton of energy, also like natural environment, but also energy related line items. And so I don't know if we have or I know at my children's school, it's something that we have talked about and have used, but I wonder if that would be helpful for Catherine and Catherine to use, not as like the only thing, but as like something to review, something to look at. So our schools have an idea of all of the things they can do, and then, something that might help them prioritize and, really think about, where they might devote energy and resources and money. So, please let's make
Thank
that
you
a part of the conversation somehow.
Thank you for reminding me about that program. I did not mention that. I did not mention that program to Ann McKiernan in our meeting, but I should have. So every single West Hartford public school is a Greenleaf school. I signed them up for that program back in 2013. That's when I also presented it to Charter Oak. It may have expired since then, but I just didn't have the bandwidth to get them all on board. Go ahead.
There is a key piece. It's the assessment tool. As far as I know, Charter Oak is the only school that has completed an assessment, and it's very simple and straightforward, even simpler than you probably remember, Catherine, because it's been refined since. But the reason I mention here is, this important connection to schools, but also how many items are energy related. And I just knew the commission, like, what a great way to connect and have this common language. So no one else has completed the assessment, and it is just a super worthwhile exercise. And I happen to be a part of the organization that has taken over management of it. Again, it's not given the energy, it doesn't have the energy and the people behind it that it used to, but it's still a great tool.
I'll put those links in a minute. We can send it around and maybe we can put that on a future agenda and maybe we can talk about to these high schoolers about getting all the schools to do assessments.
Sounds good. And Stephen, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just you know, with putting in the EV chargers, one thing that does bother me quite a bit is that the town's putting them in. The taxpayers are paying for electricity. No, who's paying
Not
the
under
electric
a
bills
new
on them?
model. That will be part of again, the comprehensive planning of a project like this. The whatever financial model they choose to endorse, but they will be paid. They will no longer be free.
Okay, all right, good. Happy to hear that then.
Yep. Yeah, that I mean, for most municipalities, the free part is going to go away. There are some grant funds, and some where one of the requirements of the grant is that it has to be free for a certain number of years. West Hartford has asked for clarification whether free means free or there's some language in those grants where whether you can kind of charge enough to cover your costs. So that
yeah, I mean, either
yeah.
way, the majority of the people with the electric cars are very expensive, are very wealthy people, and if they're getting free fuel for their cars, so should everybody else. But that's not going to happen. But I just think it's just wrong that the town and the taxpayers are subsidizing the fuel needed for the very luxury electric cars that you should be paying for that fuel. I understand maybe subsidizing the infrastructure a little bit. I know many gas stations would probably be happy to put some charging stations in on their facilities, but the town and taxpayers should not be paying for the power coming out of them.
Mm-hmm. I think you make a good point. Okay. Any other public comments?
Yeah, this is Emily. I'd like to jump in at some point to just discuss, update you folks and the conservation and environment folks on a few of the topics that we had discussed at our last meeting. Now's the appropriate time.
Yep. I think if you want to go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, super. So we've already touched upon, so I have 4 kind of priority areas that we've been working on. We've already touched upon the electric lawn equipment item, and so more to come there as we, obviously we close the loop with the town and we can consider our own educational programming, et cetera. And I think the clean energy folks, that'll be a good way to collaborate as we integrate our efforts here. The second major topical area, or Kim, I'm going to discuss mine first, and then I'll loop you in so I can minimize the kind of baton passing here. The second topical area is our historical role with town planning and zoning. So folks that have been involved with or aware of conservation and environment for a while will know that our pre-pandemic role was largely driven by wetlands applications coming before town planning and zoning. And the planning and zoning folks have the statutory inland wetlands authority, but we served in an advisory role, kind of I was about to characterize it as the warm-up act, right? Which is flippant, but that's sort of how it felt, that they'd come before us first. We'd ask some questions, and then they'd be better prepared to speak with town planning and zoning, and we'd have a report on some of the questions that we'd ask them as a means of holding them accountable a bit, flagging for town planning and zoning some of these issues. So during the pandemic, that role, given the kind of, we no longer, that role was discontinued for us. And so that came up a bit in our coordination meetings over the summer. But I've been in contact with Todd Dumais, the town planner, about getting a bipartisan set of representatives from town planning and zoning to meet us, to come to one of our meetings and discuss the role that we performed historically and how we, as conservation and environment and or the new merged group, how we can support and enhance the town planning and zoning efforts around, historically our role was largely focused on wetlands, but this, conversation around design review and clean energy, I think, is a lot of food for thought. So anyway, they are, I'm working with them to line up a delegation, so to speak, so we can discuss coordination there. The third major issue, let's see, Catherine Bruns, thank you for taking my email earlier. So I, reached out to Catherine to open a dialogue on the waste issue that we had, or the waste constellation of issues, I suppose I should say, that we discussed at our last meeting. So anything from food waste to, the recent closure of, some of the municipal, waste, the incinerator and other kind of waste disposal options in Connecticut. Is the changing landscape. So anyway, I'd like to invite Catherine to talk through some of the foundation of that issue at a future meeting, so that as we plan our priority areas and plan some of our actions, we can be better informed than we are today. I would not, given how packed the agendas will be, I would not want to have the planning and zoning conversation on the same day as the waste conversation. So I again would not want those to be on the same agenda. It would be too much for one evening. But I'll, work to coordinate those speakers for different evenings. And then finally, Chris Feely had provided a proposal for, and it's included in the minutes for one of our prior meetings, had included a proposal calling for some specific action around the native planting and pollinator pathway topic that's been a matter of frequent discussion. And she, specifically suggested some actions around converting municipal grassy areas to native plantings. And Kim pointed out that there are already members of the community working on related efforts, so we would serve ourselves well to understand, the status of those efforts and the pitfalls and successes they've seen so far before jumping in ourselves. So Kim, if you have like a couple minutes to kind of explain what you learned about the status, I think that would be helpful, because it'll help us kind of think it through so we can discuss more fully at a future meeting.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, great. So this, I think, especially right now where we're all at, as we're, thinking about the future of this combined commission, I would love for everyone to be thinking about like land use. That's kind of my term, a very general term for what Chris Feely had put on the table, a proposal with a few components. So to provide you all with, it was kind of a great coming together of like, oh yeah, see, residents are very interested in this. And I'm happy to report that there are several organizations. We're talking about the West Hartford Garden Club, the Land Trust, the Tree Group, a group that I'm a part of called Grassroots West Hartford. We all, kind of in recognition of how the way we use the way our land is used, what's happening on this municipal land, it really has a great impact on soil, water, and air. And so it's something we all care very much about. I'm going to kind of represent all of us tonight, but It's like we all kind of are looking out for the same thing to, and to differing degrees. It's all about habitat restoration. It's all about increasing biodiversity. It's about decreasing invasive species. It's about increasing the number of the amount of signage and visual cues that we care about some of these land spaces in our town. I'm also talking about parks too, so leisure services would be a part of this as well. So we all have been working kind of on our own, and only recently have come together to recognize, wow, there's a lot of ways that we could remove redundancies. And so we haven't, other than keeping everybody aware of what we're doing, we haven't taken it to the next step. One key piece, and I'm so listening to you guys at Clean Energy, I'm hearing a lot of these efforts really have brought a lot of education to our community, which I think is fantastic. And the way you guys are talking about getting homeowners to think about, where they're using energy and insulation and things like that, I think we're thinking about how to, expect homeowners to start thinking about what happens when, what is the resiliency of the soil in my yard, and have I increased or decreased that resiliency when I apply chemical fertilizers and pesticides to these spaces? Oh, I've decreased the resiliency, so my carbon footprint goes and so I would love that kind of that's what we're looking for, so that education piece. But because we're all so busy working on these other things, none of us have targeted that, thought about the homeowners or directly communicated with them or provided these educational things to homeowners directly. And that's where I see this, yes, of course, it's this Sustainable West Hartford Commission that can, play this role. So that this timing is great. This was a topic on the table, and I, as Emily said, this, it's something that we'd like everybody to be aware of. Something else that just popped into my head, again, thinking of schools, I'm thinking of athletic fields, and only K through 8, do not have chemical pesticides and fertilizers applied, but high schools do. And so, wow, what an opportunity! Something I'm of that I'm sure you guys care about a lot too, Nathaniel and Dawson. So that's it.
Well, Kim and Emily, I'll make a quick comment. I'm excited because we have been focusing on homeowners and businesses and apartment dwellers, but this will be quick. I liken outreach to like a donkey that has saddlebags on it. And we can put insulation memos in there. We can put home energy solutions in there. We can put pollinator pathways. We can put native species in there. When we send a communication out to our community, we should, without confusing people, we don't want to do that, but we have an opportunity to address people on multiple levels. And I think, and some of these levels, some of these things that you're talking about, Kim and Emily, are so dear to people's hearts that I think it would actually, they'd say, oh yeah, I do care about my yard. Oh, okay, if they're saying get insulation, I'll get insulation. I think there's a sort of a compatibility that people who are going to be picking up one thing are going to pick up the other thing. It's exciting to think about what we might be able to, what we will be able to do.
Steve has his hand up.
Yeah, so you were talking about trash and some other things, and one of the major benefits of moving these two commissions together is that we all have different friends in the world and expertise. And I know a good friend of mine is really working hard on the trash plant in Hartford, Representative Joe Gresco, who's head of the Energy Committee at the Legislative Office buildings. I might be able to get him to come onto a call next time if you want some knowledge about the energy plant that I know he's really trying to work on getting some replacement for that. So I'm just making the offer out there. If you guys are interested in having him speak, who's really running the energy committee at the legislative office building.
I think that could be really interesting. And I'll just say, if I'm not mistaken, we've started to ship our garbage out of state. So this has gone from being a problem that in people's minds to being a problem for real, this trash.
We ship 300,000 tons a year out of state now. Sometimes it's trucked 8 to 10 hours away. It's a crisis.
That's, I think.
Yeah, I ran some numbers about the amount of trash going into Hartford, and it seemed to be about I think 20 or 30 tractor trailers on the road nonstop, hauling that garbage out of here, Connecticut. And I know he's working really hard. Just a lot of politics involved, and they want more of a digester system in Hartford is what they want to build, what they want to do, but can't seem to find anybody to put up the money.
Oh, like quantum.
Yeah, I think similar to that, yes.
Michael has his hand up.
Sure, thank you. Again, just taking advantage of my time here. I think everyone heard my comment that I think we have a great opportunity to tie in our energy plan into the other elements of the town council, particularly the design review and zoning elements, so that we don't have escaping defects of new development going out that don't meet our goals. And I think that everyone in general agreed with the comment, but I also had a question, and that is, how do we take this comment that we think is a good idea and move forward to make sure action occurs on it?
So I'll share a couple of thoughts. Emily is already in conversations to get some town planning and zoning staff and members of the commission to come engage in conversation. She also mentioned having Catherine or John Phillips come talk on waste, and we've just heard we want to maybe talk about the Hartford plant. So these are kind of what I might call educational sessions. And if this group is going to work more closely together, I would venture to say that, you know, we can think about these sessions as getting up to speed for the kind of next iteration of this commission, so that we're all on the same page and know where the town is in certain areas and what's being done and by whom, and so that we can hit the ground running for the next phase. Michael, to directly answer your question, so I think when the commission does engage with TPZ, we can bring up these issues. We could also invite DRAC to a similar conversation. I am going to share, since I'm the staff liaison here tonight, I will share your public comments. And I did right after the email you sent me, but I will be sure again to reiterate those that message back to Todd Dumais, who is our town planner. I think I also encouraged you to contact him and or the town manager directly. So I don't know whether you did that as well.
I contacted Todd. I'll talk to the town manager. And one final comment. Thank you, everyone, for giving me time to speak in front of this very important forum. And thank you for your hard work on this important topic.
How could we ignore you with your backdrop? Your screen there. Are you kidding me? You get the award for tonight.
Thank you.
We were afraid you were going to float away, though. Okay. Any other comments? So, well, one question: we're going to meet again as a joint group next month. Is that the plan? You want to try that?
I'm fine with that. I think that, you know, if we are interested in moving forward together, we ought to meet together. And once we're all up to speed on the core issues, I think it'll be natural to have like the waste people over here and the energy people over there and the, you know, native plantings people doing their own thing. And, obviously the membership of those groups may overlap, but I think having like a core, as Catherine was framing it, educational set of educational conversations to occur at the same time that we're charting our path, I think would be good to do together. And then once we've laid that groundwork, we can split up into the task forces as necessary. That's just my own personal opinion.
Just looking for our next date. Wednesday, November 30th.
I think we moved that because of Thanksgiving. We pushed it back.
So that's still, I'm just on the website, so that's what's still on the website.
No, I'm saying it's the 30th. Usually it's a little earlier, isn't it, in the month?
Yeah. It's, yep. Okay. I have it scheduled at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's not 9 o'clock in the morning. That's why I couldn't find it on my calendar. Yep. So it's the 30th, and we moved it because of Thanksgiving. You're right. Okay. So I think it's been a very productive meeting, and I want to thank everybody, the other commissions, the Clean Energy Commission, and members of the public. I think we really covered some ground. Make a motion if anybody would like to.
Nathaniel has his hand up.
Nathaniel.
Oh, a little bit off topic here, but I'm actually also a Boy Scout and I'm working on my Eagle project. And I was just wondering who I could contact regarding the Trout Brook Trail, if any of you knew.
That would be the Department of Public Works.
All right.
Or
Anyone in particular?
Or Dwayne Martin, who's our community development director. Okay. I think I would start there. He's in charge of the Trout Brook Trail development projects through our engineering department.
Okay.
I'll hook you up. Oh, you're looking to engage in some improvements along the trail? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. They are just initiating, it was announced today, the next phase of development of extending that trail as well.
If I get a vote and I don't, I would say anybody, if the Boy Scouts can attack Japanese knotweed, which is, I think that would be a great project.
I think, Nathaniel, it's a combination of public works and engineering. I think Catherine's right. I think it depends what you want to engage in. We'll hook you up with everybody and
possibly Helen Rubino Turco too. To the best of my knowledge, I'm not positive, but there are a lot of people and lots of organizations that I know of who also care deeply about the riparian zone, and so
we won't leave you hanging.
That would be that lots of people would be eager to hear what you would like to work on.
All right, thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:22.
Seconded.
Objections? Hearing no objections, we'll close the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.